Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining our webinar, Empower Your Advisors with a Digital System of Agreement today. We have a great lineup of speakers and some exciting demonstrations to show you and walk you through. Please note that all of your lines have been muted to avoid any disturbances and background noise. So if you, at any point you have questions, please just post them in the Q&A window or in the chat window, and we will get to them. A couple of housekeeping items before we get into the content itself. We are recording this session, and you will receive a copy of the recording for yourself, or if you want to share it with some of your colleagues and peers later. As I mentioned, we will hold all the questions until the end of the webinar, so please continue to post your questions as you have them, and we will get to them at the end of the webinar itself. So let's get started. Today we are going to be graced by Patrick Meyer, Lead Solution Engineer from DocuSign, George Baumgarten, Senior Vice President, Product Management, the Athene Group, and Stephanie Naughton, Relationship Manager, the Athene Group. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Patrick.
Great, thanks Nisha, and thanks everybody today on the call for your time today. As Nisha mentioned, my name is Patrick Meyer, and I lead up a team of solution engineers at DocuSign that focus specifically on solving business problems faced by the financial services industry. As a team, we've helped many wealth management firms, both big and small, digitize different business processes within their organization. Having worked in all facets of wealth management, be it business development, portfolio management, and product management, and always having a knack for leveraging technology, it's been a personal goal for mine to see this industry go digital. So I very much appreciate your attention today. As of most people on the call can attest to, the wealth management industry is in the midst of a tectonic shift with intensifying compliance regulations and evolving client demographics. If a wealth management firm and its advisors want to win this, we can call it two-front war, and remain competitive, they must learn to balance compliance-friendly systems with elegant yet digital customer experiences. As the industry consolidates, robo-advisors compress margins, and a new generation of clients steps up to the plate, it's more important than ever to make sure you're leveraging technology to be as efficient as possible. Looking at the chart on the right, all but portfolio performance are concerns that can be addressed or mitigated through technology that DocuSign and Athene Group can offer. We believe that embracing what we call a digital system of agreement, or maybe better understood as the way you prepare, sign, act, and manage your firm's documents, will provide both that elegant experience to your customers while scaling with the ever-tightening compliance requirements the industry faces. To put a typical wealth management document into scope using maybe the investment management agreement, a digital system of agreement will help you draft the agreement, deliver it for electronic execution, pass important guideline details such as maybe a restricted security into systems like a front-end compliance tool or a portfolio management platform, and then finally provide you with a place to query keywords across your IMAs and their related amendments in one centralized location. This level of digitization can show a younger generation how innovative you can be and capture their interest. Or it can differentiate you from your peers or that new fintech startup offering products that disrupt the marketplace. You can greatly shorten a sales cycle, which brings in AUM faster, maybe getting assets on the books as a bull market takes the next leg and grows your asset management fee. Or maybe technology ultimately removes red tape and other overhead costs associated with an otherwise very paper-based business. When you take a hard look at what digitizing your system of agreement can accomplish for you, some of these concerns become initiatives solved by technology. I mentioned the portfolio performance might not be affected by technology, but the more efficient of a shop you run, the more lower your cost of running a strategy, the more likely a fund's operational costs can drop a couple basis points, and suddenly technology lends a hand to a portfolio's net of fee performance. If you want to go to the next slide, Nisha. Perfect. By 2045, Investment News predicts that $30 trillion globally will pass from baby boomers to Generation X and then on to millennials. This massive handoff to a new set of customers with their own expectations will threaten advisors who refuse to adapt their new clients' needs. There's one clear demand, though, a better digital experience. According to Deloitte, millennials will be the largest customer segment globally by the end of the decade, and most are loyal to experiences as opposed to tradition. As seen below, generation will favor web-based channels. It's important, however, to remember that the client experience is a continual journey rather than a single event. With that in mind, we need to consider the entire customer journey and see where technology fits into the bigger picture. Typically, it starts with the new account opening process. So with that, I'll pass it off to George and Stephanie to talk a little about Skience's role within the customer journey.
Hi, thanks, Patrick. This is George Baumgarten with the Athene Group, and very pleased to be meeting with you today and to demonstrate how our Skience wealth management platform facilitates the agreement process with your clients. So just looking at the navy blue circles at the bottom left of your screen, we're seeing tremendous interest from wealth management firms in digitizing the beginning of the client journey with a digital onboarding process. So these activities include client identification and compliance-related know your customer activities such as OFAC and AML tests. Then forms prep, including pre-filling forms and new account applications for your clearing and custody partners, as well as your firm's agreements, all pre-filled from your CRM system. And then executing the electronic signature process for advisory agreements, new account applications, disclosures, leading to an end-to-end digital onboarding experience. And Patrick, I understand DocuSign is seeing additional opportunities along the client journey.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, there's a recent study by Gartner that found that our customers want a digital experience from start to finish. So it starts with the great digital onboarding that Athene offers, but investors also want a fully digital experience throughout the entirety of the relationship cycle. So what DocuSign can provide in this experience, whether it's the delivery of annual disclosures like your firm's updated Form ADV Part 2, or maybe the privacy policy, or better yet, all of those customer service transactions like a change of address, funds disbursement, or change of beneficiary. All of these maintenance forms can either be delivered through DocuSign's web application or hosted on your website for more of a self-service experience, which is typically the trend that we're seeing right now. The benefit to everybody on the phone, no matter what channel the customer leverages to sign a document, the documents and the data all funnel through one centralized location for you to access wherever and whenever necessary. If you want to skip forward, Nisha. The common denominator across all the documented processes throughout your investor's relationship lifecycle is that various regulations and regulatory bodies, some of which are shown here, like FINRA and the 40 Act regulations, require you to be able to prove your compliance via a durable audit trail. According to Thomson Reuters' 2018 Cost of Compliance report, 61% of wealth management firms surveyed expected their total compliance budget to be slightly or significantly more over the next 12 months. Most of you have probably already identified that just below rent, compliance tends to be a fairly significant expense line item. Luckily, some of these expenses can be mitigated using the DocuSign platform some of you already have access to today. For those that don't already use DocuSign, it's another added benefit to consider above and beyond our famous e-signature solution. In my past career within institutional investing, I've used DocuSign to deliver my firm's annual disclosures. When we were finally audited, I was able to provide my auditor with the court-admissible audit trail that proved whom I delivered the disclosure to, when I delivered the disclosure, and with what other documents were delivered alongside these disclosures. The audit then itself consisted of me zipping up all of our DocuSign certificate of completions, which you'll see in just a moment, and emailing those across to the auditor, case closed. With probably the highest uptime service in the SaaS industry, you can trust that DocuSign will be available for you to pull these audit reports when you need them the most. Do you have anything else to reinforce here, George?
No, I'm good, thank you. But let me jump in on this. Thanks, Patrick. So we're seeing dramatically improved client satisfaction from clients and financial advisors in a digitized client onboarding workflow, and tremendous reductions in the overall cycle time for onboarding a new client. So, and we'll show you this in just a few minutes, but within an advisory firm, our guided forms workflows enable forms bundles to be automatically identified for the advisor, then pre-filled, validated and routed through internal approval workflows with the objective of minimizing not in good order transactions or other rejections as you submit forms and applications to your clearing and custody partners. Then coupled with the DocuSign e-signature process, what we've seen within Skience is that the cycle time for getting signatures and approvals from clients has been reduced to hours or days from a process that has traditionally taken weeks and is much more convenient and accessible to the client. Let me describe more how this happens as we move to the next slide. So what I'd like to do, just give a little bit of an overview about the Athene Group, who we serve, why our product is unique, and go through in this slide the specifics of what we offer and how a firm can access Skience. So to start with, the Athene Group's not a household name. We're a technology firm that was founded in 2001. We're headquartered just outside of Washington, D.C., and we specialize in wealth management technology. Our premier product is Skience. So who does Skience serve? Skience serves wealth management firms from boutique advisory firms serving high net worth and ultra high net worth clientele to the wealth management divisions within the largest broker-dealer firms in the insurance, bank, and independent broker-dealer markets. So how is Skience unique? Skience is a single technology platform that delivers a unified user experience for client onboarding and account servicing workflows across multiple financial service providers, including leading clearing, custody, and product providers, and coupled with leading technology tools in financial planning, proposal generation, and managed accounts. So before we get into the demo, let me just describe a little bit more about what Skience offers. So starting at the top left in client onboarding, we offer a client onboarding experience with leading firms in clearing, including Fidelity and Pershing, and leading custodians, including TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, and Pershing Advisor Solutions. And this includes account updates with clearing firms Fidelity and Pershing. Moving to compliance, we offer, as part of client onboarding, know your customer and suitability capabilities as part of that workflow. And we also offer trade blotter capabilities based on the data management capabilities that we offer. Looking at data management, this is the service we offer is to aggregate data from authorized data providers that you may use. So your clearing and custody providers, product providers in mutual funds and annuities, as well as integration with portfolio management system providers such as Envestnet, Black Diamond, and Addepar, in particular for the alternative investment holdings that those firms are very good at managing. So we incorporate that data in order to make it available within Skience. The industry tool integration is a increasingly popular part of our offering. So we offer industry tool integration with MoneyGuide Pro and eMoney in the financial planning space, with Morningstar Advisor Workstation for proposal generation, with the Envestnet platform for managed account proposal generation. And then as part of our account servicing and client onboarding activity, we integrate with Quick Forms for forms generation across hundreds of product providers. And very importantly, with DocuSign for e-signature of all those activities, and then with electronic verification systems for know your customer activities, and selective integration with clearing and custody providers, such as WealthScape, in use by Fidelity clients. The last piece on here, Client and Partner Portal, is that we offer specific workflows within Skience to enable a collaborative workflow in digital onboarding and account servicing between the advisor and their end client. So how is Skience delivered? It's really a discussion of Salesforce. So Skience is a managed package that is available on Salesforce. And for those of you that use Salesforce, it can be accessed in the Salesforce App Exchange, and it's designed for use with all Salesforce platforms, including Sales Cloud, Financial Services Cloud, Communities, and Force.com. For those of you that don't use Salesforce but are interested in this technology, Skience can be delivered on a standalone basis, just using the Force.com platform. And with that, that's the description of Skience. Let me turn it back, I guess, to Stephanie for the demonstration. Over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, George. I want to make sure everyone can see my screen. Should be coming through now.
Yes, it's popped up.
Great. Thank you, Nisha. To show that integration between Skience and DocuSign, I'm going to start out in the Salesforce application, and I'm going to walk you through that Skience integration. So today, I'm going to play the role of Alice, the advisor. And so what you're looking at before you is a Skience dashboard in Salesforce. And Alice starts her day by looking through the dashboard, and it's a place where she can get that 360-degree view of her clients and their relationships with financial account information included. So, the key is that this information is presented to Alice so she knows, what's important in her day, and she'll probably use this as a launching board for what she does next. So for today's demonstration, we're going to start with opening an account for John Brooks, who happens to be one of Alice's top 10 clients. I'm just going to click on the John Brooks record. And this will bring us to John's client page. Now, on the client page, we have quite a bit of information about John, and the information is really divided into two parts. There's client information that's on the contact, and then there's also account information. Here we see current information that we have about John. So things like name, there's also address information down below here. So quite a bit of information at the account level for John. Now, if I go to the contact record, we'll see some more specific contact type details. And here's where you start to see the Skience integration with Salesforce, in that we layer over and we capture additional fields that support the requirements, the data requirements and business processes that are needed by the wealth management industry. So things like tax ID and suitability information. But between the contact and the account information, we have quite a bit of information that's in Salesforce at the moment that we can use to define the new account opening process that we're going to walk through. So to start this onboarding process, we click on New Account Opening. And this will launch a guided workflow that's used to capture the required information needed to open John's individual account, which is what we're going to step through today. It again allows advisors to finish sometimes in hours what used to take days, and as George mentioned, sometimes even weeks to complete. This workflow that we're going to step through can apply to major clearing and custodian providers, but for today's demonstration, we're going to open an individual account at Fidelity. So to start with, we're going to just name this account, and we're going to call it John's Individual. Oops. And there's a few parameters that we need to fill in as we step through in order to adequately capture the information that's required. So I'm going to, again, select a brokerage account. And based off of our selection, I just want to point out that the dynamic nature of the fields. So depending upon where you're opening up the account, there could be a list of a number of custodian or clearing firms here. We're going to use Fidelity, so I'll select National Financial Brokerage. And then the next selection is what type of an account are we setting up? Now, another example of the dynamic nature of the fields, if I have qualified set to no, the list of account types are non-qualified accounts. If I was to have this selected, the selection yes, then you'll notice that it's a different set of accounts. So I bring that up just to point out that it's a highly configurable workflow that we've set up here, and it allows some flexibility in terms of what's captured, while at the same time making sure that the information required to set up an account at the custody or clearing firm is completely captured. So that's the first step in the workflow. Clicking next brings us to the second stage. I do plan to move through the next few steps rather quickly in order to capture just that minimum amount of data required to open up a new account. But we'll still point out as we go through a lot of the Skience features that support this digital experience. So the next step is owners and stakeholders. And here we see that data has been pre-filled from the client data that we already captured in the Salesforce CRM. And this eliminates the need to rekey data and also limits the potential for possible mistakes or errors as part of that rekeying. And it also allows for a faster and a more accurate process. Now, on this page, you can add any additional owners or stakeholders. You could also add a trusted contact. Again, for the sake of time, I'm going to actually opt out of adding an additional trusted contact here. But you'll see that it allows us to get through this step rather quickly, leveraging the information that's already in the system. The next step is account instructions. And a couple things I want to point out on this step. We have quite a few fields that have pre-filled or defaulted in, and that is part of the flexibility of the workflow we've configured. So based off of either previous fields that have been filled in or account types, we're able to default in a number of fields. So that lends to a nicer user experience and having to key in less data if we can take advantage of pre-filled information that's already in the system. Just to scroll down and give you an idea of the type of information here. So we have really the information you'd see on a new account application form, things like what do we do with security purchases, proceeds from sales, that type of information. Just to scroll down a little bit more to give you an idea of the information captured. So source of funds, throw savings in there. A couple of other things. The information as we step through this, we are doing field validation automatically. So as we go through each of these steps, we do inline edits, and if there's information that's marked as required that hasn't been populated, I'll show you what those inline edits look like in a moment. But this field validation is automatically done. In addition to the validations, you also see this help section over on the right. You can build out help section to support any details or additional information that you want the users to have access to as they're going through and filling out the required information. Another piece that I wanted to mention is that as you're going through this workflow, if you need to stop at any time, you can save the information at whatever point you're in the process. So you can save it and then come back later, maybe when you have some additional information or you have time to finish the workflow. The last page is suitability information. So we, as part of some of the compliance offerings that George alluded to earlier, we do have the option for for users to run suitability tests, and I will show you that in a moment. But the suitability details that are captured on this page are what we use as part of those suitability tests. Now, just to give you an example of what an inline edit would look like, if I were to click finish at this point, this is an example of an error message. And the message tells me at what step in the process the error has occurred, and then more importantly, what field is missing information. So in this case, it's annual income, and if I click on that, it'll bring me right to the annual income field. And then clicking finish, at this point, we have captured the information that's required to set this account up. And again, it could be at whatever clearing or custody firm that you are setting the account up at. But in this instance, it's based on what we know to be required for setting up an account on the Fidelity platform. Now, a number of additional features are available to you at this point that fall under the compliance offering. So first is approval processes. So as part of the Skience product, we support multiple levels of approvals when opening new accounts. So this is an example of just a very simple one-step approval workflow, whereby the details that we've captured have been sent to, they've been submitted by myself, Alice, and they've gone to a financial account approval queue. This can be set up in any way that you would like and based off of your business processes. We also can set up specific tasks and notifications as part of this process, but I just wanted to point out that you can track that and you have visibility into the approval status and at every step in the approval process. So that's one of the options. The other that I want to show you is suitability tests. So as I mentioned, it is part of the Skience product. I'm going to manually kick off the suitability test here, but just so you know, you could also have that done automatically as part of that workflow. But I run it so that you could see the visible results of those tests right on the screen. So here's a subset of a couple tests we've run. So a citizenship test, employment, source of funds. If you recall, I filled in the source of funds, and you'll see that the savings was selected as the source of funds. So this is the results of a suitability test. It is something that we keep a running log of. So we have the results, date and time stamped, as well as a snapshot of the account at the time that the suitability test stored, so that you can look back on, and if you need to go back and look at for audit trail, the dates and times that these tests have been run, as well as the results. In a similar fashion, you can optionally run an OFAC CIP check. The OFAC check is actually done by a third party, and EVS is the vendor that we use, electronic verification, and they are doing the check and then sending the results back to the screen, similar to the way the suitability test results showed. So we can see what tests have been run, the results, and the details all on that screen. We also, again, keep that date and time stamped copy of the test that was run, as well as the snapshot. Now, at this point, we've captured the details, we have done the validations, we've tested for suitability, run our OFAC check. To show you the complete digital experience seamlessly from beginning of capture of details through to the account creation, I'm going to actually show you what this looks like with our integration with Fidelity. So if I click the submit button here, this is using the API to submit the details electronically to Fidelity. And what happens now is the information has been passed to Fidelity, and the benefits are twofold. First, it creates a pending account that is restricted pending the receipt of signed paperwork from the account holder, which we're going to go through and do in a moment. And secondly, we receive an account number that will be included on applications. So if I just return back here, you'll see now this account has an account number that's been pre-filled. The next step is the forms generation, and then from there we will step to e-signature. So for forms generation, clicking on the forms button, it brings up our integration with Quick. So Quick is a leading provider of forms that has agreements with every custodian, clearing firm, and product company. And as part of that, the agreements, they are obligated to provide Quick with up-to-date forms. This ensures that forms used by Skience are compliant and users are confident that they're always up to date. Now, in terms of your options with the forms, here is a subset of forms. It's actually a bundle that we've set up. Now, if I just click on the search box here, I just want to give you an idea of the depth and breadth of the providers that are on the Quick Forms library. Let's pull up the Schwab Forms. If I was to select the product company of Schwab, notice that form has changed, and we're looking now at 135 forms from the Schwab library that's maintained on the Quick database. So in addition to having access to any of those product companies' forms and being able to set up bundles of forms, There is also an option to upload custom forms. So as part of our solution, if clients have custom forms that they want to have included in that library, we can also support that as well. Essentially, we take a fillable form from the client, it gets uploaded into the Quick Forms library, and then we would do the mapping so that it will be pre-filled. But I'm just going to stick with this brokerage application kit and continue on our journey of setting up this individual account. So clicking next here, it will go through and generate the form. So right now it's doing the mappings for all the data points in the form based off the information that we have captured as part of that new account opening guided workflow. So one thing you'll notice right off the bat, the account number has been pre-filled in here, and this is based off of the account number that we previously received from Fidelity when we submitted the details electronically. Let me go to another page here that has more information. So here you see John's information all pre-filled on the form. At this point, you could print the forms. So if you want, you could create a PDF of your own and print it out and send it to your clients if you need to get a wet signature. But what most clients will do is take advantage of our DocuSign integration or our e-signature. So to electronically sign the forms and send them to the recipients, you simply click on the sign button. And this will bring up the signer window where you basically designate information about who is to receive the forms and what their role is with the forms. So a couple of options here. So the owner of the account, their name and their email are pre-filled. So this has come right from that form that we were just looking at. And then a couple of other options are also available to you. So first, under the order section, this field determines the order in which the signers will receive the email from DocuSign, as well as a link to the form for their e-signatures. The roles that are listed here, these are determined by which roles have been assigned a signature field on the form itself. So those wouldn't be changed. They would come right from the form. Name and email, as I said before, automatically pre-filled information from the form, and they can be edited as needed. The email here is the email to which the DocuSign envelope will be sent. The send type, here's where you choose a DocuSign send type for each recipient, assuming you had multiple recipients. The send type determines what category of recipient each person is. Now, the most commonly used send type is email to sign, and that enables the recipient to simply receive the form via email and then sign it. Others maybe would be to send a copy, or sometimes if it's an in-person signature, you'd see that one as well. But we support all of the DocuSign features through our quick integration. The next is the access code and identity checks. So here you choose a DocuSign identity check, which is an optional setting that you can use to confirm the identity of the signer for added security. And then we scroll down a little bit more. Add recipients, you use the button you'd use if you wanted to send this to another recipient, simply to view the form, so they won't actually be doing any signing. Below that, we have the subject and message area that can be customized, either or both, or you can simply use the default language. And then finally, the send button. So at this point, as I click send, it's preparing the envelope with those documents to send them to John. Now back in Salesforce, I want to show you this process forms window here. So here's where we keep track of what's been sent for this financial account. We know the form number that's been sent, we have the current status of that form, and then we have the date and time stamp of when the form was sent. Now I'm just going to hop into my email very quickly and pull up the form that's just been generated, and we will walk through that signing session. So the email will come to the client, and they're able to then review the document, and here we'll step through it. So there's that individual account that we set up. If I click on continue, it'll take me through the brokerage application. And again, the client will just navigate to where the signature is required, adopt the signature, and then wherever their signature is required, they'll be prompted. Upon clicking finish, now here's where we'll see the signed application back in Salesforce. So now if I click this check status button, now you don't have to just take my word for it. I can show you John's status now is switched to completed, and there's the date and time that the form was signed. In addition to having visibility into when the form's been signed, we will also automatically make the signed forms available as part of this account. Now, signed account applications can be maintained on Salesforce and/or automatically swept to a Forms 1784 document retention system. So that's something that we can support for our clients. So in summary, I just want to review that what we just walked through is a demonstration of how Skience integrates with DocuSign to provide a seamless digital account opening experience for advisors and their clients. We walked through that guided interview to capture account information. We were able to electronically submit that to the clearing firm for an account number. And then we used this to pre-fill account opening forms, sent them out to clients, and then received the e-signature, completing, again, in hours, what usually takes days or sometimes weeks. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Patrick to go through another example.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. As we mentioned earlier, the relationship lifecycle kind of continues on after the onboarding experience. So take a look at how the DocuSign platform can help with both maybe the annual disclosures and a client maintenance forms. So what I have here is I'm sitting on the DocuSign web application, and as many of you that are CRD numbered registered investment advisors, you know that within, I believe it's 120 days after your year end, and so if you are on a calendar year end, that's March 31st, you have to deliver out the updated Form ADV Part 2, and then generally speaking, also the privacy policy. So what we can do here is just in a couple clicks, send out those two documents to every customer that's on our book. So I'll go ahead and click New, and I'll say, let's go ahead and send an envelope. Oh, gotta log in. So I'll say New, let's send an envelope. And then what I'll actually do is use a template that I've created in advance for my compliance document. So I'm going to say I want to use my annual compliance delivery. And you'll notice here that we've pulled in our Form ADV Part 2 and our privacy policy statement. And then if you also notice, I have a list of investors, and then secondarily, my Chief Compliance Officer is going to get a copy. That way that he or she can be sure that each investor has received this specific document. In order to get these investors in, to give you an idea of how easy this can be and slick, all I had to do was just really upload a CSV file that had two columns, a column of my investor's name, a column of my investor's email. If you want to go ahead and apply maybe access codes or things like that, that will make sure that each individual investor gets their specific version and only has access to that one, you can go ahead and put some sort of authentication on there as well, which would show up again within that CSV file. So all I need to do effectively is upload the two documents, upload a CSV file of all my recipients, and then go ahead and click Send Now. In which case now I've just sent out my Form ADV and my privacy policy to as many people as I wanted to within a couple clicks. Now, speaking of how elegant that might come across to your investors, I'll go ahead and switch hats here for a moment and go over to my investor inbox. Granted, I sent it out to the same inbox. You can see that these distributions will start coming into the investor's inbox here. Go ahead and click on one. You can see here that we have the DocuSign Wealth Management Strategies, LLC. Envision this being your own logo. Envision this being your own color scheme. And then I have some verbiage here that speaks to why the investor might be receiving these disclosures. Now, obviously, this is crafted for your decision. Whatever kind of language you want to put here is totally capable of. I'll go ahead and click on Review Documents. This is what I would determine or feel would be probably one of the most elegant ways to deliver these two documents. As you can see, I'm not immediately, as the investor, overwhelmed with hundreds of pages of disclosure. I simply have two kind of, we'll call them bars here, one for each disclosure. If I want to take a look at the Form ADV, I could go ahead and click that, pop it open, peruse it as necessary. And then if I want, I can also view the privacy policy. If you notice up here, I say that it's reviewed and it's been viewed. Obviously, as the regulation stands, I am not required to prove that my investor reviewed it. I'm only required to make that offering for them to be able to view it if they want, optionally. So in this instance, I've actually made it required. So if I try to click Finish, DocuSign to view this other document. Again, totally optional, not required, but just showing you the level of ratchet you could do here in terms of, do you want someone to view it? Do you want someone to review it? And do you want someone to accept it? So I'll go ahead and quickly then review my privacy policy, and then I'll click finish. So you can see that in terms of delivering out that sometimes burdensome regulation, that we can now do it in a very fast and elegant way. One other thing that we talked about too was the idea of having this self-service functionality, maybe to fill out some kind of client maintenance form. So what I'll do here is I'll pop over to my website, TGK Capital. Imagine the customer is coming to this website, or the investor is coming to this website, and they want to go ahead and change their IRA beneficiary. So what they can do is, maybe walk over, find a link here, change of IRA beneficiary, go ahead and click on that link. Maybe they need to log into your portal. Logging into your portal allows you to pre-populate maybe their account holder information here. So maybe as the investor, I'm more so verifying. I'll go ahead and click next. And then they're going to verify maybe who that change in IRA beneficiary might be. If there's changes that need to be made, they might make that here. Ultimately, what's going to happen, though, is that when I click the submit button, the website will go ahead and offer to me a DocuSign embedded signing session. So what I'll do here is quickly cruise through the document. Everything's been pre-populated for me. So if I want to figure out what I need to do, I can just click on the start button. DocuSign leads me to that signature tag where I can go ahead and click sign. I can either select the style that I think best represents my signature, or I can draw it using the touchpad on the screen. In the eyes of the e-sign law, it does not matter whether I select a style or draw. Both are as equally as enforceable as the other, so it's just a matter of client preference. In this instance, I'll just go ahead and use the select style here. And I'm basically now done with my agreement. So I can go ahead and click finish and go back to whatever it is I was doing, go about my day, and move on to the next stage of what I need to do. So whether it's sent from Skience, the envelope, whether it's sent from Skience, whether it's sent from the DocuSign web app, as you just saw a second ago, or whether it's self-serviced from a web portal, DocuSign will deliver to you a court-admissible document. And so that's what this document represents here. So this is tamper-proof. Every certificate of completion has an envelope ID. So this is just a unique identifier that makes it so that you can prove the certificate of the document that was signed and bounce it off of this certificate of completion. And that's important because what you'll see here is we're going to show who sent out the document. That's likely the advisor. And then on the other side, we can see who exactly it was sent to, when it was viewed, and when it was signed. More information here would be the IP address that was used to view or sign that document. This is GeoIP as well, so it would actually show where an individual was. And then going back to my personal audit experience, you can see here that it's proof that in the envelope I delivered my Form 80V Part 2, when it was viewed, and also that privacy policy sample that I had sent along and when that was viewed. So that the time the auditor comes knocking at my door, it's really easy to prove that I delivered those two documents alongside of each other at a very specific time. So that's kind of the overview of how DocuSign can also help with your annual disclosures and maybe client maintenance forms that are more self-service. Perfect. So as you're aware, whether it's new account opening documentation or client maintenance forms, the wealth management documents, they can carry a high level of very personal information. And pursuant to your firm's privacy policy, you need to protect that information. So it's incredibly important that the information on this documentation is secure. The DocuSign platform is ISO 27001, which is the gold standard for data security. We are also PCI compliant and have received binding corporate rules, aka BCRs, as both a data controller and data processor. BCRs are widely considered the gold standard for EU data, where newly introduced GDPR compliance rules the region. If you want to step forward, Nisha. As you can see by the small sampling of logos and testimonials on the screen, the wealth management industry is standardizing on the DocuSign platform. Not only do your clients know and love our experience, but if you drill down into the economics of our platform, you'll find that we drive an ROI worthy of investment. And with that, I'll turn it back to Nisha to go ahead and moderate the Q&A session.
Great. Thank you all so much for almost an enlightening session here. It was definitely very, very helpful. I see a couple of questions are coming in, so I'm going to give folks some time to enter their questions, and we'll start right at the top. So Jacob has a question, and I'm going to direct this to George. Is Skience exclusive to Salesforce? Does it also work with Tarmac CRM on Microsoft Dynamics?
Yeah, thank you, Nisha. Right now, Skience is exclusive to Salesforce. We don't support Microsoft Dynamics at this time with the workflow we showed.
Great. There's another question here around the integration between Skience and DocuSign. So is this a pre-built integration, or is it something we'll have to code and build out?
It is pre-built out of the box. What we showed today is our latest capability, and it exploits and uses nearly all the capabilities of DocuSign. All that's required is that your firm have its own DocuSign account, and as Patrick mentioned, you can use that account for the current purposes you're using, as well as use that account within Skience to get new kind of applications and other forms signed by your clients.
Great. I think that's all the questions I can see for now, and we're almost at time. So I want to thank everybody for joining and hopping on to our webinar session, and of course to all our presenters for taking time out of their busy days to host this webinar. If you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to contact us. The information is up here. I can see one more question that has come in. Raj wants to know, can you carve out forms piece if we already have accounts data in Salesforce? So I guess that's for George.
Yeah, Skience is available in a modular fashion, and we'd be happy to discuss requirements and as they relate to the specific needs of your firm. So maybe, Raj, if you can provide your information to Nisha as part of this, we can follow up later. That'd be great.
Yep, absolutely. You can just let me know, and we'll follow up with you, Raj. Again, thank you all. This concludes the webinar. We have a recording, and we will be sending out the recording as well. Thank you all, and have a great day.